In this video, I want to talk to you about how I think you can make the best progress over Christmas and still enjoy it without gaining unwanted weight. For those of you that don't know, my name is Brad Baldwin. I own the MedFit Challenge and Fit Over 40, and I've helped over 3,000 women lose weight sustainably without a bunch of crazy crash diets. So the first tip I have overall is to not worry about it. And you might have heard me say some things like this before, but sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And the truth is, if you are consistent the rest of the year and you've been making great progress and, everything else, then if we take Christmas, if we take New Year's, if we take Thanksgiving, if we take your birthday, if we take a vacation, and we kind of just don't worry about it for those times, and maybe we go off the deep end, you might have a month or possibly a month and a half of times where you're, quote, messing up, right? And so if we're consistent the other 10 to 11 months out of the year, we can basically say you're taking 11 steps forward and one step back. And if you're doing that consistently year over year, you're going to make amazing progress. And so that's kind of my first tip. The next simple tip I have to remind you guys is that if you are having a big Christmas get together with a lot of people and a ton of food, simply use a smaller plate, because I don't know about you, but a lot of my get-togethers with family, we have these huge plates, and if you pile the food on, you're inherently going to eat a lot more than you were expecting to eat, right? And so that can kind of mess us up. The other thing is, if we're talking about a problem that some of my clients have, or that they've said they have with a lot of desserts and Christmas cookies and all of these treats that they make, there's a few tips that you can do or you can utilize while still being able to make great progress. And that is, number one, if you're deciding, hey, I'm going to eat all these Christmas cookies or all these things, a big one to do is to first drink a glass of water. If you drink a glass of water before you eat dessert, you're going to eat less. And it's a cool little trick that anybody can do, right? So that's number one. And number two is, if you're open to doing this, which is what I personally do, is I try just about everything, but I cut it in half. And so if I get, one of my mom's big Christmas cookies, I'll actually break it in half and just eat that, and then take a piece of fudge and just eat half of that, and go on from there. And so in this way, you're not only going to eat less from the glass of water, but you're also going to eat less because you just cut all the desserts you had in half, right? And so that's another simple way. Another thing that I want to talk about is your workouts. And so a lot of people come to me and they're like, Brad, I don't know how to work out around Christmas. Either the gym's closed or we don't have time or whatever the reason. And so there's a few things you can do. Number one, and probably the most ideal, is to, and if this is even possible, is to work out early in the morning before people wake up or before the festivities get started, right? And so that's ideal. Now, that's not always possible, which leads me to the second one, which would be doubling up. And this is what I personally do. If I have to skip a workout on, say, Friday because of Christmas, and I'm able to go to the gym on Saturday, I'll actually try to fit two workouts in one on that Saturday. And that helps a lot too, because if I can fit those two workouts in one on Saturday, or at least do the most important movements on that Saturday, and instead of doing a full 2-hour workout, maybe doing an hour and 20 or an hour and 30, then I can really save all my progress, right? And so that's really good to utilize too. The next tip I have is, if you want to just say, hey, I just want to eat as normally as possible and do whatever I want, but I also don't want to gain all this unwanted weight, is we can actually take away from other days, right? So you can do a few things. If you know New Year or Christmas Eve and Christmas are going to be days where you eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories, like a lot of people do, then you can do intermittent fasting the day before, skip breakfast and keep your carbs low. And you can also do intermittent fasting the days following. So skip your breakfast, eat a very light lunch, keep your carbs low for 3 days after. And that way we can eat an excess amount of calories on Christmas Eve, Christmas, and have some fun. And then if we take away from the other days, the days afterwards, that's going to help us a lot because we're offsetting everything. And our average for the calories for the week can still be relatively the same. And then finally, my last tip is we have to realize, or we have to know what progress actually is around Christmas and New Year's, right? What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if the typical American or Canadian or wherever you are, if the typical person around the holidays gains 7 to 10 pounds over Christmas and New Year's, and let's say you're in that average where you typically gain 7 to 10 pounds over Christmas and New Year's, and this year you don't necessarily lose weight over Christmas and New Year's, but you only gain 1 or 2 pounds, then you've made progress, right? Because if you're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week because maybe you're coaching with me, or maybe you're doing your own thing that's really good, and now during Christmas and New Year's you just don't gain any weight, or you only gain a pound, that's a win, because typically you might gain 5 to 10 pounds, right? And so we have to realize what that difference in progress actually is over Christmas. So hope this was helpful. If it was, and you like my content, please like the video, please subscribe so you can see more from me, and I will see you guys on the next one.